Yuraisha is one of the few characters I want a Neo Vision Awaken, but lack the copies to do so. Luckily, I have a workaround involving the tickets I've never bothered to use. So let's look at her new active abilities. Right off the bat, we see a brave ability called Protector Stratagem, which can mitigate general damage by 50% and activate a HP barrier. Keep scrolling down and we find another brave ability called 4 Element Barrier, which raises your team's stats by 250%, boosts their wind, earth, light, and dark resistance by 75%, and steals everyone's elemental imperos and throws them on Yuraisha. This ability is incredibly useful, as there hasn't been a clean way to remove elemental imperos from your team without removing every other useful buff. Of course, the stat boost and elemental resistance is just icing on the cake. Anti-Dragon Stratagem will take a chunk out of Yuraisha's health in exchange for granting your team a strong Dragon Killer buff. Anti-Insect Stratagem is the same thing, but I have no clue what makes it different. There's not that much else to talk about here, so let's switch to her Brave Shift. It doesn't have a turn duration, though it does have a 2-turn cooldown. She gains some new abilities starting with her magic spells. She gets Isuna, Full Life, and Kuraja, which can be paired together with a dual cast. Though it's not exactly top tier, it's much better than her previous black magic. Back to her active abilities, where we see Revitalization Stratagem, a brave ability that restores everyone's HP and MP. Unfortunately for Yuraisha, this isn't a net gain in terms of MP, though you can certainly give her some equipment that lowers the MP cost of her abilities to make that happen. Secret Blood Energy Arts takes a chunk out of Yuraisha's health to restore a great amount of MP for anyone. The 6 barriers will grant nullification for some status ailments, though you have to keep in mind that it's not a full umbrella. Hybrid Interference Stratagem is a cooldown ability that reduces physical and magical damage by 60% for your entire team at the cost of Yuraisha's well-being. The effect duration doesn't match the ability cooldown, but I suppose that's to be expected. Benevolent Purification Stratagem can be used 3 times. By sacrificing some of her life energy, she removes all status reductions, Stop, Charm, and Berserk from her team. Benevolent Combat Stratagem can be used twice. For a heftier fee, Yuraisha will fill everyone's limit burst gauge by a great amount and boost their limit burst damage for 2 turns. Onto her passives. She has a brave ability that affects her elemental resistance, and as she's geared towards support, her passives are set to boost her survivability. Finally, let's look at her limit burst. Wise Embrace can boost everyone's stats by 280%, grants a sturdy HP barrier, and restores everyone's MP. It's one of the limit bursts that isn't incredibly vital, yet provides some outstanding effects when needed. So which brave abilities should you prioritize? Personally, I think you should go ahead and raise all of them, as boosting them will greatly raise your team's viability. Of course, each one can differ depending on your party, so it's ultimately up to you. In the end, all of Yuraisha's abilities can greatly benefit your party. Compared to many other support units, she's a bit slower as she's restricted to a double cast, but the quality of her buffs more than make up for this. She strikes a nice balance with her abilities, raising her team's defenses and offensive capabilities, with some excellent spikes thanks to an incredible limit burst gauge fill, a debuff removal, stealing elemental imperos, plenty of mitigation, and a plethora of killer and damage buffs. Of course, some players may not like her lack of elemental imbues, but she does have a 120% wind and earth impero, which can be paired up with, say, Madame Adele, who can imbue earth for your entire team. Ultimately, the sheer quality of many of her team-wide buffs greatly sets her apart from the competition, easily making her one of the better support units in the entire game.